Um, this is the least prepared I have ever been for Joe Agmark.
And I want to, right out the gate, right? I want to tell you that is fine.
Thank you.
I
appreciate that.
The fact that you're even here is mind-blowing to me, right? And I meant what I said earlier on today when I told you that nobody would judge you at all for wanting to just bin this the fuck off this week, right?
I couldn't possibly. The first episode of year 2 of Joe Ag. Come on.
Hey, Jack of all Graves, now in its second year.
Now in its second year. It's second
now in its second award-winning year. The award-winning, groundbreaking, fucking flood bailing Jack of all Graves. Now in its second thrilling year.
So much flood bailing. So much flood bailing. I have... So it was Friday, I believe. Former hurricane turned tropical storm Ida came through New Jersey, came for a little visit. And
hang on. So you're telling me you didn't get down on Friday?
I did not, unless we're talking about emotionally, in which case, yes. Yes, I got down on Friday.
Felt pretty down on Friday.
It was, honestly, though, if you were watching my Instagram stories, I was actually having a great day up until this happened. I was, making soup. I was enjoying the sound of rain outside. I was reading a little
Before too much longer, you were dreading the sound of rain inside.
Yeah, now I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, fuck rain. I never want to see it again. That's not true, rain. I love you. But I was,
like I said to you at the time, right? And let's not make too much light of this because fucking hell, people have died. Right?
Yes, exactly.
People have died. But when I'm sat here in Bicester, when I'm sat here in Oxfordshire, and I'm watching on our national news the storm that you endured this week, I know that things have gotten biblical for you.
It was a bad time here in Montclair, New Jersey. And if you are a news watcher, you saw footage from this town because we got it very bad, just extremely badly here. And I was amongst those who was hit very hard by this tropical storm. And I went down into my basement, and which is my bedroom. It's a finished basement. And so I went down there after I had been reading on the porch, enjoying the sound of the rain and everything, and was like, there is a lot of water down here. And so there was probably, when I first went down, maybe like an inch or so of water. And that very quickly became a lot more water, and ended up being probably somewhere in most of the room about 18 inches of water, some places a little higher than that. So
describe for me, I mean, put me in your shoes, categorize for me, try and describe for me that moment when you realized the water was rising quite quickly and an inch was becoming 4, was becoming 6.
Right. Yeah, it was, I mean, it's hard to explain, even for one, because like I've said before, as a person with anxiety, I actually tend to handle stressful situations very well.
Yeah. If I were to describe you, I mean, I have described you before as eminently capable. You're such a capable person.
I appreciate that.
It's true. And whether that's misguided or not, that's absolutely the impression you give out. You give out the impression of somebody who has it on lock, mate.
Yeah, I like to think that I'm pretty capable. And so I kind of sprang into action, and at first was kind of figuring out, like, okay, like, what do I do with this water? I started, my husband's out of town. My sister had just left. It's just me, basically.
When's he back, by the way? How long have you got?
Well, he'll be back for a few hours Tuesday, and then he's gone for another 3 weeks. So so it's just me on my own trying to figure this out. And I at first was like, okay, well, there's this like inch of water, I've got to figure out how to get this out of here. But then I realized, like, no, this is rising. So I grabbed a bucket, started we have like a big utility sink down there because of the laundry room down there. So I was kind of taking this bucket and just pouring the water into this, and it was just coming and coming and coming, and before long I'm like, this is not 1 inch, now it's up to my shins, now it's up to my knees. This is happening, and so I'm kind of trying to text my husband. He's like, we have a couple of pumps here, And so I go and I find a pump, and he's like, you got to hook it up to like a hose. So I run outside in this storm that is like whipping at me, super fast winds, hard rain, all of that kind of stuff. I'm going out there. I felt straight up like Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park, just like running out into the rain, trying to like slipping on things, trying to get this. Trying to get the hose undone. I'm like, the hose is
dropping your can of Barbasol.
Right. Yeah, Barbasol. Yeah. And I was like, the hose is on too tight. I can't get it off. So then I'm running in the house, just leaving like puddles behind me, grabbing a wrench. I get the hose off of the thing, get it all, connected. And it's this hose has like some sort of little washer in it. So it only lets like a little stream of water out of it. But I'm like, it's fine. Okay. At least it's something. So the pump is down. It's pushing as much water as it can outside. I am there with a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket, just bailing by hand as fast as I can, trying to get this out as it rises and rises and rises. Moved.
How high is this by now at this point?
I mean, like I said, it got up to about 18 inches in most of the room. We had stuff like boxes of books that we hadn't built shelves for yet, so they were on
and if anyone doesn't know, and I'm sure I'm not speaking out of turn here, but you're short, mate.
I am
so that's like up to your shoulders, isn't it? 18 inches. That's like,
how dare you?
You're kind of...
Yeah, we're talking, like it's up to my knees, past my knees by the time, like, and depending on what part of the room you're in and everything. There's boxes of books I'm trying to pick up, get off the floor. I'm trying to get, I electrocuted myself because I could hear a power strip fizzling underwater. And I was like, well, I can't just leave that there. And so
that is precisely how people die in floods. That is exactly the sort of thing that leads to the death of people.
It is. Yes, it 100% is. But also I was standing in the water. So I was like, if this shorts out or something like that, it's going to electrocute me in the water here.
Yep.
So I was like, I have to get this turned off one way or another. I didn't
know this bit. You've not told me this bit before.
Oops. So this happened. Also I mentioned this to the neighbor, and my mom had walked up behind me and she was like, what? I was like, yes, that happened. So I got a little bit of a shock, but our breaker isn't labeled. So I couldn't turn off all the power at once to the basement. And so I was just trying to turn off power strips and stuff and like hope that it was, going to be okay. Got a little bit of electrocuted there, but got pretty much everything that was like extremely important off the floor. Like, what if Kia's laptops got ruined? And just like a bunch of random stuff, like my dresser, our bed, like all kinds of stuff like that are completely destroyed.
Were the books that you lost worth much? Because as an academic, books cost a fuckload, don't they? I got the books up real quick. This is like nerd vibe right here. It was like the second I noticed there was water, I was like, the books! And I went and grabbed them and picked them up and rescued them from the water immediately. I would like a gift, please, of that. The books!
The books! Oh God, the books!
The books!
But yeah, honestly, like, so we're calling all over town trying to get any kind of help to, like, someone please, an emergency, come here with a bigger pump than my tiny little thing to get this out. And you couldn't get a hold of anyone. We finally got the fire department, and they were like, they came by.
Is it still raining at this point? Is it
still raining? It rained till like 3 a.m. And the fire department came probably like 2-ish, and they looked and they were like, honestly, you're lucky. We have a lot of people that we're seeing that like their floor to ceiling completely flooded out, which was the case with our neighbor across the street, Maurice, who also lives in his basement, completely floor to ceiling flooded. The neighbors on one side of me, they had gotten like a couple inches, not too bad. The other side had about the same as us. But yeah, if you've seen, like, look up on Twitter or anywhere like Montclair, New Jersey flood, and you will see our town was just absolutely inundated.
The BBC was full of, film of cars just fucking
floating away.
Subways pouring with water.
It was just straight up apocalyptic. And I was talking to my neighbor next door and just thinking about like preparedness for stuff like this. Like, what do we do now? Like, what is the next step from this? Do we need to be prepared for this? Because this is what they used to say was a 100-year storm, right? But Sandy, the last time that this happened was like a decade ago. Like it wasn't that long ago. So how much do
I might
we
be
have
misremembering,
to prepare for
but
this?
I'm certain some newscast said that in New York it had beaten the previous record for rainfall in a particular day, which had been set like a few months
It was like
previously.
a week ago or something.
There you
Like
go,
it
there
was
you go,
very recent.
Yeah.
Not maybe not a week, but yeah, it was like within the past like weeks
Yeah.
or months. Yeah, it's just at this point we have to recognize like this is our life now.
Yeah.
And make sure that our houses are ready to withstand that. So, you know, and I told you earlier, I had told my husband, I was like, I think we need to do something about the floor in the basement, because if water gets here, it's going to be an absolute disaster. And then this happened. I'm like, yeah, we have to be prepared for a world in which this is a regular occurrence, and hopefully flood proof the place, but also it's going to happen.
Realistically, how, you know, that term flood proof, is that just a pipe dream? I mean, if
well, there are things you can do.
Right.
Ideally, you set it up like outside of the house so that water flows away from the house, which has been done here, but not in years. So, especially because we had a tree removed, so that, and if that tree had been here, it would probably be on somebody's house right now. We had a tree removed a few months ago, and that affected the slope of the ground outside of our home. And thus we have more of a slope that's going towards the house than we did before.
See, the more you speak of this, you could have had a tree on you.
Yep.
You could have been electrocuted. You know,
it's super
very
dangerous.
much in harm's way. Yeah. Very, very much in it's very Final Destination-y in my head, what you've just been through, and death was fucking waiting for you around any corner.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very acutely aware of that the whole time, that everything that I was doing, you know, it was one wrong move away from something terrible happening, you know, like even like if I slipped and hit my head, there was more than enough water to drown me in there. You know, like everything was a hazard. And I think one of the things that really became real to me through this was recognizing that there is no help, you know, that we are now, it's been 3 days or whatever since this happened.
And listen, not only was there no help, didn't some guy actively try to fucking scam
you?
you?
Someone tried to scam us. Like some dude came to the house like and was like, oh, it's gonna cost, you know, $1,500 to pump this, and then we're gonna do all this stuff. And my spidey sense was tingling. I was like, get the fuck out of here, no way. I pumped that entire thing for free, bro. That on my own. I bailed that out with buckets. I set a pump up and I emptied that entire thing on my own. So
what
fuck that
kind
guy.
of fuckhead thinks,
right?
Hey, make a couple of fucking dollars here.
Yeah, but and that's like
guys.
You see it in every like movie, right? And you always want to think in real life people aren't like that, you know, that like in a crisis we will band together and we will all do the right thing.
There's a quote,
but we don't.
There's a quote that always does the rounds on social media after disaster. My dad said to me, just look for the people who are helping.
Well, it's a Mr. Rogers quote. Look for the helpers.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. They weren't around though, were they?
Right. You know, like, and they tried. The fire department was very nice. They did the best they could. They put us on a list, you know, but there were 120 households on their list. So when they finally got to me again, you know, after they had initially checked it out and then they came back.
Figured it. Yeah, you'd done it.
I'd done it myself at that point, you know. So
see, you're capable. You are eminently, you know, you can handle shit.
It is validating in that sense to be like, okay, I know how to handle my shit, and that's what I've been doing, like just bagging up clothing and to take to the laundromat because the washer is not working properly, and like, you know, turning on every fan and dehumidifier in the place and just doing everything I can to keep chugging away at it. But it really is like, you know, you think about when these kinds of disasters happen, and I'm lucky in that like it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And I had some things in the house already that I could use to help me. with this. I had buckets, I had a pump, even if it was tiny, things like that. But how out of luck people often are when this happens, and it just destroys their livelihoods, or people die. It's 20 something people now is like the count of people who died in this, and like it's so easy for things to go horribly wrong. So in all of this, I've tried to keep a pretty positive attitude, which I don't think is a thing people have to do. I'm not trying to be one of those like, just like, lean in and be positive and power of positive thinking or whatever. It's just my way of dealing with things is that I'm like, is it going to help me to panic, stress, whatever? I'll have myself a good 5-minute cry and then go to work, but it could have been a lot worse than this.
Well, look, the longer Jack of all Graves stays around, we've charted the ebb and flow of the pandemic, and we will continue to do that. I guess it looks like we've also got a front seat for our plunge into climate fucking mayhem.
Yep. Yeah.
Stay tuned, folks. It's only going to get worse.
It's a really wet seat, as it turns out. It's like when someone gets off Splash Mountain in front of you and you watch them step on the seat and you're like, no.
Yeah, they're all wet seats by the time I finish with them.
Gross.